Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Mark Zockoll. This is no prank, but today we're talking about pranks. Let's dive into this.
The Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. But bear in mind, the views and opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation. Don't let limited budgets or IT staffing make your staff vulnerable to common cybersecurity attacks like phishing and social engineering. One of our past guests and friend of the pod, James, has offered 3 listeners' Christian schools 3 free virtual training sessions. These 45-minute video conferences will personally cover critical topics like email security, password best practices, and online safety and privacy. Email us at mark@christianprinciplespodcast.com and tell us why your school should be a part of these free sessions. Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
And I'm Mark Zockoll, and today we're talking about pranks. Matt, why are you wearing a rubber duck tie?
Let's see the rubber ducky tie. Well, it's mainly because as I came into my office this morning, I was greeted with a flood of rubber duckies.
Flock of
ducks in my office.
Were they evenly spaced around,
they were
or were they just
everywhere and everything? And there's still
and how big
a couple.
Were they?
I see one right there right now. These are
little
tiny rubber ducks, not the big ones, little tiny ones. They're actually even smaller, like very, very small little rubber duckies. But yeah, I'll be finding them here for a little while yet.
Probably about a year. I imagine you'd be finding them a year from now still. Yes, we have the classic prank of filling the administrator's office with, whatever it is. Whether it be cups of water,
Post-it
small
notes?
ducks, Post-it notes. There's many. But today we're talking about pranks today. Before we do that, let's hear from the Herzog Foundation.
The Christian Principles Podcast is proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation in our mutual goal to see Christian school educators thrive, to further its mission to catalyze and accelerate the development of quality, Christ-centered K-12 education. The Herzog Foundation offers an array of programs such as online content, up-to-date news, training and events, grants, and hands-on organizational improvement initiatives. Leaders need to head over to the Herzog Institute to find amazing training opportunities for both administration and teachers. Herzog has also become a great hub of the latest news in education through their network of podcasts, including the one provided by yours truly. What a blessing the Herzog Foundation has been. Head over to herzogfoundation.com now so you too can be strengthened by this incredible organization. That's herzogfoundation.com. Just one more thing before we get back to the episode. If Herzog has been a blessing to you and your school, would you mind sending us a message telling us how? We'd love to share that with others.
Coming back in, Matt, have you found all those rubber ducks
yet? As we were
yet?
talking, I just found another one sitting right here on my desk.
Found another one.
Blended it.
Okay, as far as mission goes, when it comes to pranks at school, this is a tough one for me because we're not going to necessarily get angry when it happens to us. In fact, we kind of need to sit back and just take it and celebrate it to an extent. But there's a big but there.
There is a big but there.
There's a big but there because it can't happen outside of us. And really, we even need to maintain some level of respect amongst those.
Boundaries.
You can cross a line. Yeah, boundaries. Yeah. So, do you communicate? Do you make a point of communicating to people what the parameter of pranks can be at your institution?
I don't necessarily go out of my way to discuss it because it's one of those things that once you bring it up, then they're thinking about it. And I can tell you exactly. I remember this was several years ago, but our pastor was sharing a chapel message, and in his message, he talked about a prank that he pulled when he was in college. And I knew as soon as he started sharing this, I'm like, this is not going to be good. All the kids, you could see the wheels turning. And almost instantly after chapel was done, they're coming up to me, Mr. George, can we pull a prank on Pastor? To which my only answer had to be, he opened that door.
Yeah.
You can go through
You guys, yep.
But yeah, I do believe there does need to be some parameters around it. You know, obviously you don't want to pull pranks that somebody's going to end up getting hurt or property's going to get destroyed. You know, we want to make sure that's
is it a good one if it's not bordering on those lines? Is it a good one if it's not bordering on those lines anyway? Like,
there could be a little sense of danger involved, I guess. But yeah, you don't want to. I guess the biggest thing with pranks is you don't want to have to live to regret it. Like, oh man, why in the world did we do that? You know, that you want to be able to pull out a good prank can be pulled off where the prankee, you know, can admit you got me, you know, but it's not a, oh, please don't ever connect that with me. And in fact, that's actually what his prank, they pulled it off, and he was sharing kind of how what there was a reaction, and the school did not have a sense of humor. And so they pulled all the guys in and they said, listen, we know who it is, but we're going to give you a chance to, you know, admit to it, and your penalty will be lesser. And of course, Pastor says, and you know, when they say that just really means they have no idea who did it, and nobody's going to speak up because they're about to get kicked out. So, yeah.
Listen, I was not one who grew up enjoying being scared. I didn't want anybody to jump out from behind a door at me. That was not something my father enjoyed. That was not something, so it was not something that was in our house, really. That was not something that I enjoy. I don't like scary movies or thrillers or things like that. That's not part of what would make up fun recreation for me. And in the same way, to a large extent, I was not one to think through an elaborate prank and make that a part of my relationship with somebody else. I actually, if anything, I would see something funny and I would mail it to a friend. I did that recently. But outside of that, I don't have these creations. However, in my first installment there at Faith Baptist School, there were several stories that just routinely, you know, that came up every so often. And one of them was the great tire prank that was pulled on Principal Horner at that point. And the senior high boys got some blocks, blocked his car, took the tires off his car, and then put the tires somewhere else. I don't think they put the car back on the tires, though that may have been what happened. So there's a history of it there at Faith Baptist School, absolutely. The first prank, or one of the pranks that I remember when I was there as the administrator was, as you mentioned, the Post-it notes. I walked into a lot of paper waste. A lot of trees were killed to see that office just painted with Post-it notes, completely painted with Post-it notes. And there's been some other ones, of course, throughout the time. But we started talking about, you know, missionally, how do we handle this? What do we do? I agree. We're not going to go out of our way to put parameters on it. We're not going to say, I wouldn't say in a handbook that pranks can't occur or shouldn't occur. I probably just wouldn't say anything about it. Kind of like a senior cut day or something like that. It's not something that I'm going to talk about until, sadly, like you said, you have to talk about it. But do we want to rob our cultures of having the opportunity to have that sort of lighthearted fun, so long as it's not crossing over into the bullying, so long as it's not crossing over into some manner of disrespect? I mean, there's got to be...
I guess my approach to it has always been, number one, if we're teaching them to respect property, we're teaching them to respect, you know, relationships. I honestly, the best pranks come out of a knowledge of what is going to either be entertaining to the whole group, or, you know, this person in particular is really afraid of spiders. So I know that, you know, a rubber spider is going to go a long way. You know, relationships have to be kind of at the center of it. And when you are just doing a mindless prank that you just absolutely don't care about the response of the individual, you don't care about the property, I mean, that is going to result in a discipline measure, because they're not taking the things that we're teaching, and they're not taking it to heart.
I also say that you mentioned discipline measures which could result from pranks, and that's not something to necessarily take off the table, I suppose, especially if the punishment, I guess it wouldn't fit the crime, but we could make it fit the crime if it was something obnoxious that the student would have to do because the prank was obnoxious. I will say there have been times that I've had to preside over prank issues. And one that comes to my mind, I'll go ahead and give it, further discussion here. There was a middle school teacher who she and myself actually received on April Fool's Day, which this goes back to how I don't necessarily read the calendar before I walk into the door.
Right.
And I really should, because it's not on my mind to put on my 4th of July tie. Well, we have 4th of July in school, but it's not on my mind necessarily to put on my Christmas tie at Christmas time. It's not on my mind necessarily to think of the best Spirit Week outfit the week before, because sometimes, many times, most times, I'm walking in just ready to hit whatever comes at me, and I forget that some of these days are special. So April Fool's Day, I walk in. The students know I like donuts, and I had a student who told me that there was a student who had made a donut for me, and I didn't think a thing about it because this student would be one that would be so kind as to get me a donut and bring it. So I hung on to that donut until lunchtime because I was a good little boy watching my calories or whatnot. So I hung on to it at lunchtime, took a bite, realized it was not a donut. It was made out of Spam, basically.
Whoa.
This student had a background of living in Hawaii, and so I came to find out it was Spam. I don't know if I guess I didn't think it tasted like Spam. I guess I just think it didn't taste like a donut. But then I remembered it was Spam. I remembered once I was told that it was Spam. That's what Spam tasted like because I hadn't had it in forever. Well, there was another teacher that received the same prank on April Fool's Day, and so it was Spam him something. There was a third that received a Oreo that was not an Oreo. It was Oreo pieces with toothpaste between them. This teacher was outraged, completely outraged, was brought the student to my office, came to the office. And when I say outraged, I had never seen this teacher act this way before, was very upset, was calling on lack of respect, calling on what if this had been somebody who was allergic, so on and so forth. Just really was laying on nice and thick. So that led to conversations with the parents, that led to conversations with the students, and I'll say that my walk away from that was a walk away of, really, I have more problems with the way the teacher reacted to that student than the way the student responded. I disagreed, though not to the teacher's face, that toothpaste was going to be dangerous. I disagreed, though not to her face, that the student had been disrespectful. In fact, the student and the family that had made this prank and completed this prank on several of us was a beloved family, was a family, which goes back to your point, a family that we could expect otherwise to completely have our back, to not be trying to harm us, to not even have students who would otherwise be those usually in trouble. And so I was able to see that and to feel that. This teacher could not, though. And so I walked away thinking, okay, what really needs to occur here? Because there's a broken relationship. At that point, that student had broken that relationship with that teacher. And what needed to happen was what you would have suggested. What you suggested before was, we think of the biblical practices of restoration, going back and finding what they needed to do to come back together, and that was going to be an apology. But I tell you what, that apology made that family as upset as I've ever seen that family. 2 times. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say I'd never seen those families and that teacher be that upset over anything before. But that family was very angry, actually in tears angry that the teacher had reacted that way to toothpaste. And that was one of those situations of it was only going to be an apology from the student to the teacher that was going to make anything different. And then it was going to need to be a little bit of time with that teacher where I gave it some time and then went back to the teacher and tried to have a conversation about the heart behind it, even some of the things we're saying right now. I'm not sure if you've ever had that experience, but I've had that experience, and it was interesting. So it definitely led to more time and energy spent on thinking about pranks I ever cared to.
It makes me think of, you can't control people's reactions. This is one of the things I tell the students all the time. Like, it was a joke. I didn't mean anything by it. I said, I understand that. And perhaps you had the best motivations, intentions, but you can't control how other people are going to respond or react. You might try to guess or anticipate, but you can't control it. So when you get that unexpected and howbeit like unnecessary response, you still have to be able to say, listen, like I don't know how you couched the whole apology, but my thing that I'd be suggesting to the family is we're not so much apologizing for the action. We're apologizing that we weren't considering that possible reaction, and we're sorry that their feelings were hurt, that it came across as disrespectful, and we want to establish, as you said, a restored relationship. Let's work towards that. That's the type of apology you need to work towards. And if the teacher just demands, no, I want them to be sorry that they even thought of doing that, like that's again unnecessary. But I also say another good thing. I appreciate it whenever students come to me and ask, Mr. George, we have a really good idea for a prank. Could we do this? Because what does that communicate? Whenever your students trust you enough to be able to say, we really want to do this, but we want to make sure that we're not going to get in trouble, even if it's something as simple as that. Then the couple things that I always suggest is, apart from, make sure nothing gets destroyed, make sure nobody gets hurt, is, try to involve somebody outside of yourself. So if it's like a senior class, don't just make it your class. Get either a parent involved, get a teacher, another teacher, or even myself involved, just so that you can at the very least, if again you get this unexpected response, you can say, we went out of our way to make sure we thought of everything and we were thinking outside of the box.
Yeah. Well, he said we could do it.
Yeah.
So
and make get yourself a scapegoat is what I was telling him.
Yeah, exactly.
But even like when I was finishing up that story with Pastor, when he shared that that prank, of course the students wanted to do that very prank on him. And I won't say what the prank was, but the prank did involve the destruction of property. It was not.
Yeah, if it's not a good one, there's not a good one.
So I was like, well, we're not going to do that, but we can make it seem like we did that. And I'll just, I guess, I have to share. It involved water, but
I think you're fine to say. I don't think anybody's going to be.
Completely remember, but as far as I know, they put a hose in the window and turned on the faucet and left.
Yeah, and they shouldn't have done that, especially not to who they did it to. So
instead, that he was gone on vacation, and so there was like this perfect timing to set up his office, and they got a big piece of blue paper, made it kind of look like water, and then they all wrote all over it, "We love you, Pastor. Thank you for all that you do." And then we closed his door with a hose sticking out of it, and inside we had a speaker that was playing running water sound effect. So he had a slight moment of panic when he came back, but when he opened his door, he saw it was all fine. But yeah, so awesome. That's kind of the thing where you can have these ideas and you can obviously show love and appreciation. Even the rubber duck joke that was pulled on me this morning as I came in, which this is not the first time. This is the return of the ducks. It's now become a tradition. But there's a little note. We joke because we love you. And then even this tie, and I've got some socks on right now. We're also part of that. So when I come in, I can't be upset. It was like almost joyous. Like, they're back.
Yeah. We should pause and say, if you are the head of school administrator, you better think long and hard before you have a reaction of negativity to someone attempting to be humorous. Like, you better step on a rake and have it broken your nose. And even then, you better find a way to say, well, it was a good attempt. I go back to, if I didn't finish something on my plate at home, that was something. If I didn't finish something on my plate at somebody else's house, that's a far bigger deal. I don't like coffee. Coffee's gross. Coffee smells nice, but it's disgusting to drink. But if one of you out there, one of our listeners or somebody else invited me to coffee, you better believe I'd down a cup of coffee to be with you and to make sure we were together. Well, in the same way, we as leaders had better be quick to be the first ones to laugh at the joke pulled on us. And even if it was even if it cost us time on a day we didn't otherwise have time, guess what? We never have time. Even if it cost us, some level of a $5, we got to replace something that was damaged. We had better go out of our way to make sure we laugh and have a good time and impress upon them that we do have that good relationship, if at all possible, because otherwise we are putting ourselves on a pedestal we do not need to be on. And there's a measure of respect and authority that we should be somewhat careful of, but we, first among peers and the rest of it comes to mind.
The other thing I would say is, along with the suggestion, make sure somebody is helping you think through this and pull it off appropriately. I think another thing that is really helpful, we mentioned we don't want to, orientation, get up and say, okay, if you're going to pull a prank, here are the rules.
Yeah, here's the parameters. Yeah.
Rather than that, take an opportunity to demonstrate how a good prank can be done. I'm not saying all administrators ought to go out of their way to pull pranks on teachers or on their students, but if you have that, that clown of a teacher that just loves having a good time, let them do something like that so that the students can kind of feed off of that and that good energy, that good humor, and they can go after it that way, as opposed to, students never seeing any pranks done, and so they think the best thing to do is just key everybody's car. Best prank. Like, no. No, don't do that. Yeah.
Too much. I hear you. If we can let them humanize us to some extent, may we be reachable in that way. This has been fun. This has been interesting. I'm sorry, I wouldn't. Of course, we were thinking about pranks because he's been ducked, but it is an easy one to talk about. Fun to talk about. Let's move on to our Christian Administrator Spotlight, though.
Yeah, we are shouting out again over at Legacy Christian School, Julee Martinez, the assistant principal at Legacy.
So Julee Martinez, once again, as Matt said, this is the third time we've talked about somebody from Legacy Christian School, and we are excited again that their social media manager found us on Instagram and made sure to send the shout out. So Julie, I hope you enjoyed your $5 Dunkin' card. Too many D's in that $5 Dunkin' card. We're going to go ahead and pray for you now. I'm going to pray for you today, Julie. Julie, thank you. No, we don't pray to Julie, that's for sure. Let's start that over. I gotcha. Father in heaven, I thank you so much for Julie. I thank you for Julee Martinez and the assistance that she offers to the principal and the assistance that the principal offers to the head of school as the head of school looks to serve all there at Legacy Christian School. I'm sure she has very specific roles in that job description that she's even trying to accomplish as the year relatively comes to a close as we get into the fourth quarter. Might she be in her work today strengthened by you as only you can offer strength, and might she glorify you as we all must glorify you. And if she happens to be pranked this year, or if she gets to be a part of a prank this year, might it be such that she can laugh through and again bring you glory in the way that you have made us as humans to enjoy such humor. We love you. Amen.
Well, it's a good thing, Mark, that we don't record together anymore, because I'd probably be pulling some pranks on you in person. So
yeah, my shoelaces would have been tied together, some kind of nonsense like that. I'm sure.
Watch out.
Yeah,
coming.
Don't come. Don't do that. I don't want them near me. I'll laugh. I'll make sure we have a good relationship. I don't like them. All right, everybody. Thanks for going with us today.
Before you go, please be sure to hit that follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, on Spotify, be sure to tap the star icon near the top and select the number of stars you'd like to give us. We'd be so grateful for 5. On Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the ratings and review section and then tap write a review to share your thoughts of the podcast. Thank you.